The diencephalon is really at the heart or the center of your brain. The diencephalon is located in this region just above your brainstem. So go from the medulla to the pons to the midbrain, then you have the diencephalon region above that. It's made up of three primary components. You're going to have the thalamus, which you see right here. Then you're going to have the hypothalamus, which is this one. And then the epithalamus, which isn't labeled, but will be right about here. So together, those three components, thalamus, hypothalamus, epithalamus, all make up your diencephalon. So let's start talking about the thalamus. The thalamus itself is located just at the top or superior aspect of the brainstem. So you get to the brainstem, you go right into the thalamus. It's located beneath, though, the entire cerebral cortex. So you have your entire brain, the thalamus is kind of located down here underneath. When you're looking at the thalamus, there's 24 nuclei located here. Now remember, nuclei, these are clusters of the cell bodies for the neurons. So it means that's a lot of processing power. 24 clusters of cell bodies of nuclei here. So this is thinking about how much information is traveling through the thalamus. All this sensory information coming up from your body goes to the thalamus, which means it has a lot of processing power here. While your brain is a mass computer, this would really be one of the very main central points of processing power. When you're looking here, you can see there's a lot of different names for these nuclei. Things like the ventral posterior lateral, the anterior nuclear group, the pulvinar group, the medial group. Thankfully, we don't need to know all those names. The key thing here is there is a lot of processing power, a lot of information is coming up into the thalamus that your brain must process. So don't worry about the individual names, but be aware there's 24 nuclei here. That's a lot of cell bodies of neurons. So you can kind of refer to this thalamus, because of all these nuclei, as the gateway to the cerebral cortex. The reason it's the gateway to the cerebral cortex is because all the sensory information from your body comes up through the thalamus before it goes to the higher centers of the brain, which means it has to be able to process all this sensory information. It's not simply relaying it. It'll help to process and help us kind of group things together. So this thalamus is a very important aspect in getting information into the brain. Because as it goes through, it's coming in, the sensory information, it's sorted and edited before it's sent on to the rest of the brain. Well, I think in sorted and edited, what's going on? It's sorting and editing because it's taking like and similar ideas. Well, all right, this piece is over here in the room, that piece is over there in the room. You're seeing these different things. You're hearing these different sounds. Maybe you're having different smells, but it's all your environment around you. It's going to help and bring these different types of signals together, helping to create clusters of information that goes into the brain at different points. So that's what's referred to as grouping similar aspects. Now, when you start looking down here, motor activities, learning, memory, cortical arousal, immediate sensation, all of this is dealing with things that are going through and being processed by the thalamus. So learning, sure, it's not the only aspect of learning, but it helps with facilitating the learning process. Same for memory. It's helping to put things into your memory banks, kind of remembering what's going on. Motor activities. Well, think about it. Have you ever tried to walk on uneven ground? Try doing that with your eyes closed. How well does that work? Yeah, not well. This sensory information helps to trigger what your motor outputs are going to be. Cortical arousal. The idea of bringing the cortex, the entire cerebral cortex, into activity, trying to give it stimulation as far as what's going on around you. And mediate sensation. Well, yeah, all that sensory information is coming up, so it's helping to control and basically mediate what's going where and make sure you're understanding what's happening in your environment. So there's a lot of things going on inside this small little area called the thalamus. Let's shift gears into the hypothalamus. So this orange area is the hypothalamus. Now you can kind of notice it has a little bit of a almost triangular look to it. It kind of comes down to a point. But that's the hypothalamus. Now the hypothalamus is located below or inferior to the thalamus. As the hypothalamus comes down to a point, it's ending at the infundibulum. This infundibulum is a thin little stalk or connection between the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. Now, the pituitary gland is your endocrine system. So that means the hypothalamus is serving as a link between the neural and the endocrine. So that's what's found just at the most inferior aspect of the hypothalamus. And for the pituitary, that's this part right here. The infundibulum is this stalk that connects it. So that's the infundibulum. Now, just like the thalamus, though, the hypothalamus is going to also have quite a few nuclei located here. So it means there's a bit of processing power in the hypothalamus as well. Now, we don't have 24 nuclei, and just like the hypothalamus and the thalamus, we don't need to know every single nuclei name in the hypothalamus. Just know there are quite a few here, quite a bit of density of nuclei located. So what does the hypothalamus do? Well, we have even more functions to go through than we do with the thalamus. One of the biggest aspects of the hypothalamus is going to be the autonomic systems, the autonomic responses. You can see here blood pressure, heart rate, digestive motility, breathing rate. Now, all of these are going to be automatic control, things that you're not thinking about, just the autonomic system. I mean, think about it, day to day. Do you always think about how you breathe? For the most part, no. You might become aware of your breathing if all of a sudden you're breathing too quickly. Do you think about your heart rate usually? No, unless the heart rate's going too fast, or maybe it's going too slow. But more often than not, you're not even thinking about any of these aspects. This is all maintaining homeostasis. Your hypothalamus is helping to maintain homeostasis by the autonomic functions of these different components. You also have some emotional response here. Now, it's not every single emotion, but you're noticing pleasure, fear, rage. Now, those three are being centered off of the hypothalamus. So we have some emotional responses coming from the hypothalamus. Body temperature regulation. Now again, it's not exclusively as this is the only place, because obviously you need your skin, the muscles, but it helps facilitate the homeostatic balance of your body temperature. If you get too warm, hypothalamus helps cool you down. If you get too cool, hypothalamus tries to help warm you up. Food intake, hunger and satiation. Now, hunger, sure, you're hungry, you eat. Satiation or satiety is fullness. Now, if you're full, obviously you don't usually eat. But there's an interesting thing here. Your body, from your digestive system to your hypothalamus, takes on average about 20 minutes to realize it's full. How much food can you eat in 20 minutes? A whole lot, obviously. So that's why a lot of times it's recommended to slow down as you eat. Let your hypothalamus, let your brain realize when you're getting fuller. So as you're getting fuller, you don't just keep on eating, you start to slow down and stop, so you're not overstuffing yourself. But food intake, hunger, satiation, so basically hunger and fullness. Water balance and thirst. If you're thirsty right now, hey, thank your hypothalamus. If you're not thirsty right now, thank your hypothalamus. The idea is it's helping to make sure that you have enough fluid in your cells, in your blood, throughout all your tissues of your body. By doing this, it's maintaining the hydration and the homeostatic levels of fluid in your system. Again, hypothalamus. Sleep-wake cycles. Well, if you typically sleep at night, usually when you get into night, you start to feel tired. Maybe you work nights and you sleep during the day. Well, then as you start to go through a certain part of the day, you might start feeling tired and you want to sleep. the hypothalamus can help regulate these sleep and wake cycles. I keep saying help because if you notice, the hypothalamus is not the sole control of all these things. It's helping to work with other parts of the brain, other parts of the body to make these work. So let's look a little more at the endocrine nervous system link here. I already mentioned that the hypothalamus on the inferior surface has the infundibulum, the stalk, that goes to the pituitary gland. Well, pituitary is endocrine, but there's more links than that. The hypothalamus is going to help basically control secretion by the anterior pituitary. That's because the hypothalamus is sending these signals to the anterior pituitary, so the anterior half, to say secrete a hormone or don't secrete a hormone. So it's sending these messengers down to the anterior pituitary. Another link is that the actual hypothalamus itself produces two hormones. It's going to produce both oxytocin and antidiuretic hormone. Now, we're not really getting to what those do too much because that's endocrine, but oxytocin you might have heard of with labor contraction. Antidiuretic hormone, you might have heard of that with water conservation in the body. So two hormones are produced in the hypothalamus and then sent to the posterior pituitary. So again, this connection of endocrine and nervous system is found with the hypothalamus. Which brings us to the third piece, the epithalamus. Now, epithalamus is back here. It's not labeled, but it's a smaller portion here. The epithalamus itself is the most dorsal aspect of this diencephalon region. But really, the epithalamus, the region, only houses one gland. It's the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is going to produce melatonin. You might have heard of melatonin before because it helps with your sleep cycles. So melatonin is helping with sleep regulation. Be careful, it's melatonin, not melanin. Melanin is the pigment in skin. This is melatonin. So the pineal gland is pretty much the only thing found in the epithalamus region, and it's producing melatonin. So that is the diencephalon, the region just above or superior to the brainstem. Thalamus, hypothalamus, and epithalamus are the three regions of the diencephalon.